church. I have very limited time, just 5 minutes, so I'm going to read from my notes. Our family's testimony is the testimony of a journey guided by God. A journey that started from not knowing who God is to getting to know and trusting Him. Experiencing miracles on the way, from finding ourselves in a dark place, feeling helpless, hopeless, and in despair, to a place full of hope, faith, and abundance. Sam and I were born and grew up in Armenia during the Soviet era. When the Soviet system collapsed, our family, including 2 little children, ended up in a very dark place. I am not going to list all things that we had to face, but just to give you an idea, we were trying to survive brutal winters without having heat in our home. Sam had to spend the many nights standing in a line in order to bring bread home. And that's when, for the first time, I cried to God for help. Me, who was brought up as an atheist. When I was in a dark place, felt so helpless, I cried to God, whom I did not know. Nobody advised me to do that. The first miracle happened when one day we received a call from my distant relative from Switzerland, who was visiting Armenia and decided to find us. I think she was in her early 20s at the time. She decided to help by inviting us to Switzerland. At the time, she was living with her parents, and she never mentioned she invited our entire family. They found out about us the same evening we arrived. I guess they told her to deal with the situation she created. So after our arrival, we ended up going to the refugee camp, which was not what we were hoping for. Switzerland officials placed our family with the other refugees, mostly from Bosnia, in an old monastery building. There, we met an evangelist, and for the first time, we heard about the gospel. We were invited to come to church, and that's when God started to introduce Himself to us. Before being baptized and accepting Jesus Christ as my Savior, I cried to God again to help me cross a bridge between doubt and acceptance. God responded to me by miraculously healing my broken wrist days after breaking it. Shortly after our baptism, Sam and I received devastating news. We were rejected of the refugee status. We had to quickly decide what to do, where to go. Our initial human instinct was to illegally cross the neighboring country. Fortunately, we did not have to rely only on our wisdom. People were praying for us. One day, the pastor of the church we attended offered it as an opportunity to go to Croatia to study theology at a seminary. After trying many places, he explained, Croatia was the only door that was open at that time. We were wondering what was the logic in sending our family to a country that just recently devastated from a long war. To leave Armenia to go to another broken country? It was a tough decision. We prayed a lot, a big change in our lives, and decided to take this risk. So we flew to Osijek, Croatia, to start with our studies. In Croatia, God continued to introduce Himself to us through the best professors of theology. And something that was such a concern for us at the beginning turned out to be a big blessing. At the seminary in Croatia, we met a family from the United States, Steve and Jane, and their children. After a while, Sam and I decided that Osijek was our new home, and that was God's plan for us. It certainly seemed to be the case after Sam was offered an engineering job. We found a job, we found a church, we learned the language, we were ready to settle in. The only thing we needed was the official permission to stay from the Croatian government. So we applied for a work visa. To our shock, we were refused again, only this time by Croatian officials. For me, this was even worse than what I felt in Switzerland. I thought God betrayed us. When Sam asked me to come with him to talk to Steve, I refused. Sam went alone. Steve and Jane were preparing to leave Croatia and go back home to States. Sam explained what happened to us and asked for help. Steve and Jane promised to pray and see what door God would open, and they left. To be honest, I did not have a lot of hope. After a few months, Steve came back to Osijek with a group of people, including a lawyer and a businessman, who wanted to hear our story. We met the group and told them our story, and they left. Shortly after, we received wonderful news that Sam is in the process of getting a work visa to come to the United States. A few months later, we received our visas. I will never forget this. Early in the morning, around 6 a.m., on the day of our departure, there was a huge rainbow throughout the whole city. It was at this moment that I realized God was telling us that everything is going to be all right. In summer of 1998, we arrived to Stanton, Virginia. This church was waiting for us. Unconditional love and care. That's what this church gave us since the first day we arrived. It has been 20 years since God first introduced himself to us, and there hasn't been a day since that he has not shown his presence, protection, and love. Throughout our journey, God taught us to trust him, to rely on his wisdom, not ours, to be patient, to never lose a hope, and to believe that there is always hope when he's in charge. Thank you.